two will try anything.
All right, well, I want to welcome everybody to our first faculty colloquium. I'm going to say a few words to kind of motivate what we're doing here. There's a quote that I really liked by ASIS&T. He said, if I've seen farther than other men, it's because I've stood on the shoulder of giants. And the point of that here is that as members of SLISS, we have a privilege and responsibility to help others see farther. And this semester there will be several opportunities. We'll have student colloquia, and that's where every student, including distance students, we figured out how to have distance students come in through Breeze, and they can come in and give a presentation just like this. So I'm just going to say a few words about Dr. Sam. She got her doctorate from Florida State University. She's past president of ASIS, and she's enthusiastic about how technology can help educate and how art promotes human equity. Tonight she'll be sharing her knowledge of 3D imaging, and please help me welcome Dr. Sam to a round of applause.
Well, now you know this is an impossible task to get me to stand still. Is this where I need to be? Now, will the mic pick me up if I stand right here?
No. Well, the mic will be on. We just needed to see you on the screen.
How's that?
Okay.
What?
Okay, how many of you came for pizza? How many of you came to be enlightened about 3D imaging? Oh, that's good. Shoot. It's worth the pizza then. Well, thank you for the lovely introduction, and it's a privilege to be here. I picked this topic prior to knowing that some friends of mine who run a software company and a 3D laser scanning company named Arias 3D, and I'll talk about them in this presentation, from Toronto, want to give us a scanning station here and let the university be a regional 3D scanning center. We're meeting with the General Counsel here on Monday morning to negotiate the contract. We had a presentation from the sales VP of Sales and Marketing Vice President of the company yesterday. Was that just yesterday? And she flew down for the afternoon and flew back as soon as she finished. But the doctoral students were able to be there, and some people from the provost office, and Liz was there. So we got like an inside view of the advancements that they've made in this field. So tonight, I want to give you background in the types of 3D imaging technologies that are available right now. And then I want to move pretty quickly into what I see as a research agenda that can inform and direct our future activities. So if you click, there are two major ways to capture a 3D image. One of them is called X-ray computed tomographies. This is the stuff that like looks at the inside of your body. You know, they run you through the machine, and it's like, you know, X-ray on steroids or something. You know, it's like really cool stuff. It takes slices. It's a machine that has to be held perfectly still. Most of them are in lead-lined rooms about half the size of this room on hydraulic feet, because the machine spins around the object. Okay? And as it spins around the object, to make these slices at 1,000 micron levels, right, it gets out of cattywampus. It gets out of sync. So the synchronization of a tomography machine is very, very sensitive, time-consuming, and very expensive, because every time you have to go in and recalibrate, you've got a problem. So this is a product of a tomography. A tomography will allow you to see inside of an object. Okay? The laser technologies that we're going to talk about here in a little bit don't. So this was an original scan set. This is a prehistoric lizard. And there was more to him. He was dehydrated and there was more to him, but just for the purposes of show and tell, and I'm going to pass him around so you can play with him. He was scanned, and that data set of the scan was sent to a resin printer. The resin printer formed like a plastic model of that scan, and then that was used to do a lost wax bronze casting. Okay? A lot of this has been used in reverse engineering. Engineers that want to figure out how did that part work, or can I make another part like that? Use the same technology. This group at UT Austin is the foremost group in morphology, and if you click on their website, you can see some of the work that they're doing currently. Highly recommend this to you if you're interested in seeing the inside of an object. This is the only way that you can. It's like technology. It's good. It's good. Don't come. This is really the only way to get that inside view. This is the inside of a dinosaur egg, by the way. The prehistoric dinosaur egg. And you can see the critter there. Okay, well, somebody was in my office when I clicked through the links and they worked, right? All right, so that's right. Let's move forward. We can come back to it. There it is. Okay. Here's some high resolution. These are some geologic applications. There's forensic applications. There's archaeological applications. They don't do a lot in the arts with the tomography, but they did help loft the missing parts of the Triceratops that's at the Smithsonian, and also the Brontosaurus that sits outside of the Smithsonian on the mall. And I've got some pictures of that. So use this as a resource. You can, the paleontology pieces, paleontology guys love this stuff. You know, they can reproduce their bones and make copies of them and spread them around. It's like a big deal. Okay, if you could do the slideshow. I'm not used to not running the whole stuff. But I trust you, Pat. So here are the types of scans without color. Now, notice that none of these scans are picking up color off the object with the tomography. It's all black and white. But the detail is incredible. You know, you're getting the whole image, and there's not much being missed. Go ahead, these are just examples. And again, you know, how specific, you know, so you can see where scientists would just go, you know, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. This is like really good stuff for them. Go ahead. And here's an example of the slice. So for an object like that lizard head, there are approximately 100,000 slices of data to get that data set to reproduce that lizard head. Now, how do you organize data like that? Here's one slice of the set, right? Well, guess how they were doing it? On Excel spreadsheets. And they went on and on and on. Some of them were like miles long, you know. Now, if you're a scientist and you're, say, for example, interested in the audit canals of prehistoric lizards, there might be somebody interested in that, you never know, then you'd want to go to a specific set of slices. You wouldn't want to have to go through all of them. So part of the work that I did with UT Austin was figuring out how do you find the slice that matches the query. Okay, how do you get the data matched to the query set and the query parameters that, you know, will allow you to sift through this mile-long spreadsheet. And we did pretty good work. A lot of it was done with tagging, and we did focus groups with scientists, so we had preset retrieval sets, so that we would have a set of queries that they said were common in their field, and we could pre-retrieve certain slices, which was kind of cheating, but boy did it work good. It made us look really smart. I was like, yeah, baby. So this is really fascinating stuff. Go ahead, Timmy. Go ahead. All right, so how does it work? It does these slices. They're at different density. They're at different points depending. You can adjust this on a range. It's very sophisticated. And it stacks these contiguous equidistant slices to get that reconstruction of that 3D image. Any questions so far? Okay, next. Now, when you want to reconstruct the image to send it to, say, a resin printer or use it on the web, you have to do some things to it because those slices aren't, you know, real compatible with zeros and ones in the computer world. So in 2D images, we use a thing called pixels. And I think Gene, show them that little camera that you have. See if Gene's in the camera? That's a digital camera, right? So the first thing I asked him, well, how many pixels is it? Because that's like a measure of the resolution of the image that can be stored with that camera, right? And I think it's like
352 by 288 at high res.
Wow. You won't be able to make a poster out of it, but you got pretty good resolution, right? So those pixels, those zeros and ones that tell color and orientation on a digital image, on a 2D digital image, become 3D in the 3D environment on the web. And those zeros and ones get stored in a thing called a voxel, a VOXEL. And the voxel is a 3D cube stuffed with pixels, right? So all of our software that renders 3D images, our 2D images, and allows us to see those on the web is obsolete once you introduce that third dimension or that Z-axis. Okay? So everything we've done in the world of 2D imaging, and we got really good at it. I mean, we were like, you know, really good. You know, we could like, you know, turn sculptures, and we could do QuickTime movies, and we could do, you know, all kind. We had the Louvre was on the web, you know, the Uffizi Chapel, you know, it was like, this was getting really, really good. We were getting good at it. All of that development of that software came to a grinding, screeching halt once you introduce that Z-axis in the digital environment, not on the native representation. So, resin printers became very, very important in this relofting and this reverse engineering sense of how to deal with this. And here's some examples of some companies that do what I think are some pretty cool things. And I bring this to your attention because I have a vision. And my vision is that some kids in Allendale studying the Mayan culture will be introduced by their instructor to a vase that shows the Mayans playing baseball in relief around the edge of it. And that vase is stored at the Smithsonian Museum in Washington, D.C. And the teacher goes, would you like to see this closer? And the kids go, yeah, I love baseball. I want to see the Mayans playing baseball. She downloads it to a regional printer, makes a resin copy, and the kids can throw it around the classroom, play with it, turn it upside down, and interact with the object in a way that they would never be able to do in the museum, even though it's not the real object, it's an enhanced learning experience. And that's where I want to see us go. So these guys are very, very important in that process because it is that replication in an actual 3D world, like passing that LISSA. I mean, you know, you can see it on the web and it's really cool. Man, if you can touch it, it becomes really incredibly cool. And forensics, pathologists, all kinds of people are interested in this. And I'm not going to take the time to go here, but this will be up, and you guys can go and look at all of these. I'd love it if you tell me which one you think is doing the most interesting work, because they're all kind of in competition. And most of the guys, most of the people, guys and gals, that are involved in this particular technology come out of the game world. A lot of them were early game designers, and so you get kind of these crazy names for things, and you know they're very playful, they're very, very smart, and they move quick. And so you'll go one day, like at the Valencia, the 3D systems, you know, one day I went and they weren't able to do anything smaller than 50 microns because somebody wanted their bug collection scanned. I was like, yeah, okay. We'll make rubber bugs. Okay, that sounds good. And next day they were able to. So it's a very fluid environment. Okay. So resin printers, big part of this. Okay, here's the Triceratops. This is with the light from a laser scan applied to the texture of this lofted Triceratops head. next one. And here are the actual scans of what's in the Smithsonian. This is the actual species reconstructed from a pig, right? And at one point, he was missing one of his horns, okay? So the 3D imaging lofted that horn, allowed the data set to be printed in a resin material and recast in the bone-like substance that got reattached. There he is from another view. I just love the detail and how much fun you could animate with these, or I see all kinds of possibilities. And there he is, and there's his reconstituted form, or ear, or whatever it is. And it's very exciting. Okay, next one. All right, so that's tomography. Okay. Now, let's say that you really don't care what's inside an object, and you don't have the money for a tomography scan. What you really want is a representation of a 3D object on the web. And you really don't care if it ever gets printed or made a model of. That what you really want is something that you can build an online environment for and make a virtual museum or a virtual learning environment or a second life or whatever it is that you want to do with those objects. That's when you turn to laser scanning. Laser scanning is a combination of 3 colors, and it's called a white laser beam by the time that they combine the colors, okay? As opposed to a red laser or a green laser, and there's all different ones that do different things. But the combination of the 3 colors together into the white laser allow the laser to capture both texture and color in a single scan. This is really, really important because it cuts across all kinds of things. If you go to the next one. The ARIAS 3D company that's been working with this started out again in the paleontology field, worked into the forensics field, and then got interested in the museum field. And currently has a contract with several European museums, including the Louvre, and they did digitize the Mona Lisa, by the way, and have an incredible 3D rendition of the Mona Lisa painting. You can see the back of the painting. It's like, how many museums can you go into and lift the painting off the wall and see the back, You can also see the underpaintings when you do this with the laser scan. But they started here and have been making their bread and butter off of these forensic and paleontology scans. Now, this laser raster scanning, as it's called, is pretty nice because you can make it portable. Now, you have to keep the object immobile, right? But as long as you can do that, the laser itself really doesn't need to be calculated very often. They burn out. They're about $20,000 to replace the white laser. But the machinery around the scanning device is much less costly, much less sensitive. And you can even get one on a tripod now and carry it to the object instead of bringing the object to the scanner. This is important when you've got all your treasures buried in the basement and you don't want anybody touching them, right? Very different from libraries that go, hey, come on in, here's a book, take it, right? Museums go, don't touch my stuff. So, it's got the same impact as a flashlight. Now, will a flashlight repeatedly wreck an object? We don't know, but the chances are that over time, for the short duration of exposure that the object is exposed to, it's probably not going to, hurt it. And for the Louvre to let us come in is pretty cool. Next one. So this state-of-the-art scanning that does the texture and the color is the place that we want to be at. And these voxels off that single scan can scale up to high resolution, to a scientific inquiry, to a JPEG for catalog sales. I mean, Now, why is that important on that scale of up and down off a single scan? Because all other 3D objects were built with polygons. How many of you have gone into like Lands End or one of the catalog companies and you can zoom in on the backpack and it starts falling apart? You know, it's like the image disintegrates before your very eyes and you think, geez, I don't know. But what's happening is the polygonal structure of the object can't allow itself to be expanded because it's polygons, math. It doesn't work that way, right? It's a geometry, okay? With the voxels and the points being measured and recorded inside of those cubes, you can scale up or down off a single scan. And the software to do that is called point string. And I think if you'll click on the link up top, I'll show you what this is. So this point string software, which is really the unique part of this, there's other white laser scanners available, but this is the cool part. If you'll click on the uniform, this point string software is what's a playable piece of it is loaded here. And if you guys want to see more of this, I've got it loaded on my machine downstairs and you can play with some stuff. But go ahead and click on animation. And you can see it's an incredible detail. And you can move the mouse to rotate it, you can turn it in all kinds of fashions. Well, go to the prayer view. And this is incredible. I love this. Here's this prayer view. Okay, how many of you know about prayer views? They're very, very intricate and they're thought to be carved out of one single piece of wood. And if you will open that. And now if you'll do it close up. That's good. You can see. Amazing. And this is a whole lot clearer on the screen than it is over the LCD. So this is just normal website. I mean, this is nothing, you know, so you can imagine taking that scanned set of data, what you can do with this kind of information. And I'm not going to do a whole lot more of this, but I encourage you to go and visit this site. It's really fun. And they used to have you can do the point, I think here, the point string software, I think you can download just a piece of it for viewing. So we can't really do anything with it, but you can view some of the images if they still have that. If not, come down and we'll show you that stuff. Oh, look at the scarab too while we're here. Notice the metadata? What doesn't the metadata have? Doesn't say anything about what's up or down, top or bottom, or where the z-axis is, or whether it's the right side or the left side of the image, or, you know. So you could get lost. All right, let's go ahead and go back to So any questions about anything up to this point? All right, next slide is, there's the research agenda. This is slide 1 of the research agenda. And what I'd like to do is just kind of give you an idea of what I've done so far in this, and a lot of it's in publication and you can go find it, but the real question to me, and the one that I think, that's where I get my jollies, is really what to do with that third dimension. It sounds so simple, you know, it's sort of like, well, it's a 3D image, duh. You know, of course it has 3 dimensions. But everything that we do in library and information science land is pretty much calculated for that flat object. All of our cataloging, all of our metadata. I mean, I haven't seen a metadata scheme yet that even in the medical field will allow for the third dimensions of tomography and CAT scans. Yeah.
So even museums which have been using objects for years and years don't have a good way.
To talk about the 3D image? No, because they've never had, it's always been stationary. It sits on a base, and that's the bottom, and you walk around the image, or you walk around the object, right? They've never ever before in their history had it where a user could turn it upside down, you know, or sideways, or, you know. So one of the things that we did for that, and you'll notice it wasn't on that point stream, but Liz, you saw it in the presentation. They have an X, Y, and Z, sort of like a geometric signal down in the corner of the software, that when you turn the image, those axes change, and that gives you an orientation. And that came out of the work that we did with the Royal Ontario Museum with the Z-axis. The metadata for the 3D data sets, you know, I'm not sure what we even need to capture because we don't even know what the queries are yet. We've started gathering them from the researchers in the field, including the art historians and the people teaching with these images. But even in medicine and science, we don't have a real clear, there's not a clear translation from what the query would be in the 2D environment to what this added information brings to the information space. So you've almost got like, it's sort of like candy falling from the sky. It's like, I know I have a query about the Audit Canal of a prehistoric lizard. However, now that I know that I can see that and how it's connected to the whole oto-learned, blah, 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 my query just expanded. And now I've got a whole set of queries that I never had before because I didn't know that information was available. And I think that's what we're going to see is this, I call it query spurging, you know, it's like kind of like mushrooms do after a rain, you know, it's like the field just gets more. Vocabularies. The people that have the best controlled vocabularies are museums. They have a really nice art and architecture thesaurus that has nothing at all about 3D images and barely anything about sculpture. So sculpture gets described as a flat 2D piece. And medicine has a great controlled vocabulary, which is Medline and Mesh, or Mesh, with Medline being one of the applications. And they don't have a whole lot of controlled vocabulary that works with this. And what do we know about vocabularies? You have to have one to do real organization. You know, free text is just a sexy thing. I guess we could argue that. Maybe what we ought to do is have some like debates and things. You know, free text versus cataloging or something. That would be. What are the applications in the humanities for these things? How can we use these to meet the needs of lifelong learners, to meet the educational needs of our K-12 environment and our higher ed environment? Can the humanities actually grow and expand by the introduction of the information contained in these 3D objects? I'm not sure we know that yet. This is what I've been working on recently, the preservation, migration, and longevity issues. I don't know, how many of you have faced storage dilemmas where whatever you've got your stuff stored on is no longer a valid storage? Yeah, okay, but you can imagine. A DVD will hold about 3 or 4 of these images at high resolution. And so, you know, how long is a DVD going to last? I don't know. You know, do I have the DVD player that's going to play the DVD when we get to? And it's a huge investment. It's not just in money, but in time, in human resources. People have been dedicated to bring these objects to the scanner, right? You know, go through the process. And so there's not just the IT piece of it, but the whole HR piece. How we're going to migrate them, when they're going to need to be migrated, we can put that in the metadata tags, and migration and preservation metadata management is a really hot field. If anybody's interested in that, I highly recommend it, because if you're good at that, you can write your own ticket. But again, we don't know. We don't know also what happens, how much the image degrades each time you load it from the original. And that's another piece that in digital imaging, as you know, gets to be. We don't even know what the true costs of production are. Even though we can say that the scanner costs X, and it costs, you know, Y to bring an object to the scanner, it costs, you know, Z to have a bond to cover, you know, what if I trip and drop the thing? Ah! Oh no. So all of those pieces, and we really don't have a clear, we can't say, well, it costs $10 to do something this size. And that's, I think, if you really want commercial application, you've got to be able to have at least a menu of costs, I would think. And the collaboration needed to make the product and make the product work in a larger environment is still not there in all of its pieces. One of the things that will be part of, if we get this on campus, is building a 3D image library similar to Corbis and Getty's collection of 2D images. You know, that's a $4 billion a year industry, those 2D image libraries. So, you know, I'm thinking, hey, let's start building the 3D one. You know, it's like, well, scholarships for everybody. I don't know why not. So that piece of getting that test set, how many of you know what TREC is? Have you ever heard of TREC? TREC is a National Science Foundation test for image retrieval software. And what you do is if you think you've got an algorithm or a product that is better at retrieving text than something else, you go to this single test base. And the TREC test base is the same for everybody. So you ameliorate all those confounding variables of having different kinds of documents and different kinds of formats by having everything the same. And you use that to test your system against. And it ranks how good you are. If we had that from 3D imaging, a whole lot of things would get a lot easier, a lot faster. It would be very nice things. And then this is the last one, my research. And, you know, with my vision of having that vase in the classroom, that replica of a vase, and the idea that our e-learning or our distance learning capabilities, I believe, are very nascent, very, very early in development. I don't think we have a clue how good or how bad this can be. I think we have a lot of tools coming down the pipe that are going to be really exciting pieces of social networking and ways to communicate that will allow us to build much more robust and high-touch e-learning environments. I'm not sure how 3D imaging fits into that, but I'm fascinated by it. I'm very encouraged by the work that Dr. Tu and her team has done on looking at Second Life as a home for a virtual reference desk. Notice that she picked land that's right next to NIH, by the way. on Dr. Tu's island, you know, it's like very cool. And I do think that this is important work. And whether or not the software is a toy or real doesn't matter. What matters is that you investigate the possibility of creating an environment that has a higher level of interaction than anything we've thought about yet. And see what grows out of that. So I'm very, very encouraged by that. This whole idea of user need analysis, how many of you have done a user need assessment? Isn't it boring? You know, and what, do you really think that if you go out and do it again, you're going to find out the same thing? That's right, because human beings mess up good data. I mean, they can really make it a big mess. So having some kind of prototype, I'm very, very interested in these pre-designed retrieval sets that you say that, you know, like the menu idea that you've got a series of queries and sets of queries that you know at a basic level you'd find the answer in an encyclopedia, right? And so you don't bother looking at the biographies for the answer to that answer set or that query set. So I think prototyping that type of need analysis will be very important in this field. And then, training and education. The people that I had working in my lab in Texas are all placed. One of my PhDs works for ARIAS 3D, Vika Kratchna. Another one of my master's students that was on the team is the Chief Information Officer for the Met now, and in charge of their 3D image documentation, not scanning, just documentation. So they're doing their metadata first, and we'll see where it goes from there. And many people doing other things. And we will be presenting this latest work on the metadata stuff at the Museum Computer Network in November in Chicago. And an update on some of the 2D work that I've done is going to be at ASIS in Milwaukee. So I'll have those papers for you someday. I think that's it. Is there more? Is there any other slide? Patrick? No! Thank you!
Are there any questions for Dr. Sam?
When you talk about the 3D printers, you made a comment about it's difficult to decide how much it costs to scan. But many of us have high-speed laser printers, and the cost of doing it on the screen
Oh, yeah.
isn't out by the time we walk down the corridor to the 5 feet down the corridor to the printer. Obviously, it depends on the size. What's involved? How expensive are they? What are the different? There are a number of companies doing them out. What are the differences?
Yeah. The cool part right now is there's two major technologies driving them. One of them is like an injection, like a mold injection model, and they actually, the little fingers of the resin printer fill to the level of where that stop is on the data set. The one that I find more attractive is what they call like an empty bucket printer. And what it does is it goes in and air forms on like a mask-like material the shape of the object, and it pours the resin into that shape. So it's air generated instead of finger fed. I don't know, this is kind of a weird way to describe it, and obviously not my field. But I think that those costs are coming down dramatically, especially with all of the reverse engineering applications and things. One of the huge uses for this stuff are classic car collectors. People that, want to make a injection valve for a such and such, that no longer, they can't find it in the junkyard, and they get these resin printers, and they actually engineer those from these models. So that's a huge driving. Of course, that works for me because I have an old car in this thing. But so getting a handle on the cost, that's just another complication. But they're getting better and better and better. And the materials that they print with now. Liz, you saw that jawbone, right? That was a combination of paper and silica resin, aluminum silica resin or something, and pretty light, very robust, and total detail. I mean, you could even see the laser marks. It was a jawbone from a dog from an Inuit burial ground, and somebody had cut the bone of the dog in 2 places. It was pretty cool.
You mentioned this really quickly, but did you do that artist rooms who actually see the layers of paint on a painting?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And they've been using it. They actually found under some of they've been using it to catch forgeries for one thing, which I think is pretty exciting. But also like underpaintings behind Manet, M-A-N-E-T, that Manet, the one that did the execution things, and the Rembrandts that had underpaintings under them. And you can see how the artist changed the composition of the final painting by the underdrawings. It's really fascinating, really fascinating. There's an underdrawing under the Mona Lisa. Is this what you needed to hear or wanted to hear? Or
Oh, yes.
Okay. Well, I'll leave you with Not that I have stock in Wired or anything, but I think that Wired is probably one of the easiest single stop shops to find out what's going on in the technology world. It really is. It's just so easy. It's all right there. And the ads are pretty cool too. But this is a supplement to the most current issue. And it's 149 people, places, ideas, and trends you need to know. I haven't gone through all 149 yet, but there's a bunch of them I didn't know. And it's like, you know, Matt knew them all when I started reading them off, but it was like, you know, it's like modding, I wasn't sure what that was. Quantum computing, of course, I didn't know that. But I recommend this. You know, it's cheap, it's easy. I bring mine into Captain Adam, and I'm sure he'll share.
It's actually online as well.
And it's online. So, the Wikipedia, I recommend.
What's Sam, a big round of applause.
Anybody out there in the field? We'll post it.
Yeah, it'll be archived.
All right. Trans,
Well, has anyone done any research with this in palimpsests?
in what?
Like palimpsests, like texts that have been written over and rewritten over and erased?
Oh, I know, but boy, wouldn't that be fascinating?
Is it-
Yeah.
Huh?
Wow. That, I'm not sure you, well, I don't know how you do that. Because you have to have some relief to get the laser to work. And I'm not sure there's enough relief under that because it's all pretty smooth, right? Even though it's been written over and over.
I've never actually seen one, so I have no idea.
Huh. Ooh, let's find out. All right, well, thank you for your attention. Thank you for being here. And thanks for the pizza.
Oh, well, we've got one question from the field, actually.
Oh, good.
If schools can barely afford computers, how will they afford this?
You thought you were
Who
getting
is that?
answer.
Who is that?
Oh, that's anonymous. That's
I don't think that the cost of this will be in addition to basic information technology in 10 years. Just like the web is not an additional cost to the internet. You know, it's like you get the connectivity and the value-added pieces of it are just that. They're generated for value-added. So, Ethan, is it?
Anika.
Anika?
Anika.
Annika.
Sorry.
Annika, how much are computers at your school? She says 5,000. Please know somebody to crack this.
We get secondhand computers.
Oh, man. Poor things.
And her name is pronounced Anika.
Anika. Yeah, I think you just have to count on it being value added as part of the secondhand computers. Though I'm not sure if their video cards would be good enough to. Where is she? I know. She's in Maine. Maine has secondhand computers. Yeah, tell her to call her governor that we're putting a laptop in every ninth grader's hand in South Carolina. New ones from Dow. Oh, that's sad. Isn't it? Well, think about it. Horrible.
Yeah, but they probably have a low tax base. I don't think they have that many people.
Yeah,
Competitive
we need to start
workforce.
that retirement village, get those wealthy taxpayers out there with no kids to go to school.
It's too cold.
I love Maine. I love Maine. I love our lobsters. I love our cohort there. As a matter of fact, we're going up. Noni and Fred Roper, our previous dean, and Dr. Chucky, Dr. Curran, and who somebody else is going, they're gonna go, huh?
Gail.
Gail Douglas are going up to Maine to do a leadership institute for our cohort up there. So, I'm looking forward to that, and they'll take that, and then maybe we can get them to do it for each
Nika says all the high schools have new stuff, and fourth graders don't know how to save on the clock. Yeah.
Please tell me at least it's 3.5.
Ow. Tell her she needs to call me, we need to talk about this. We need to get a strategy for this. Flyers.